Number 10. Tricky smugglers. One of the biggest uses of the dark web is as a black market. There are sites that allow you to buy anything and everything, and unfortunately I do mean anything. But when it comes to buying illicit substances off the internet, some sellers have been extremely creative about their delivery methods. A few Reddit users discussing this told some stories of the most interesting and innocuous packaging they have seen. One user said that they constantly received junk brochures in the mail for cruises, zoos, all sorts of things, and thought nothing of it until they saw their roommate cutting into one to retrieve a bag of powder. Or there was allegedly a comic book seller whose entire back cover was a sheet of dissolvable hallucinogens. Another had seen a collectible Pez dispenser, still appearing to be factory sealed, arriving already filled with pills, not candy. I had a Buzz Lightyear one back in the day, but it never had anything like that in it, so be careful out there, folks. Number 9. We see you. This story comes from a user of the early internet, before Google, an ancient history for some of you I'm sure. This web-savvy individual often found themselves roaming around random dark web chat sites and found one with some cryptic comments, like people passing notes. Hidden in a JavaScript comment, he found various IP addresses, which is a device or router's unique address. He decided to browse through some of these for fun. We have different ideas of fun, I guess. And he found some of them belonged to servers with little to no security. Not planning on doing anything nefarious, just window shopping, he was flipping through one that seemed to have a lot of files of various sizes, mostly images of faxes, financial documents, and even some medical records. But after a while, a new file appeared, titled "Hello There." When he opened it, it was a simple text file with one line written, "We see you." About 15 seconds after opening it, the server went down. Something like that would make me not want to internet for a long while. Just don't go poking through people's stuff. It's that easy. Number 8. Your wish is my command. This story was told as a first-hand account from someone who has allegedly been in a psychiatric hospital since it happened. When he was younger, a rumor went around his school that there was a website on the dark web that could grant almost any wish you wanted, for a price. All you had to do was solve a cryptic puzzle. They don't go into detail about what it was or how they solved it, but it was hard enough that none of their friends did. When they got in, there was a simple form that you had to fill out for some personal information, and then a box where you entered your wish. Obviously, you should never give out your information to a sketchy website, but they didn't know any better. They started with a small wish as a test, a new Xbox. They hit enter, and the screen changed to a simple line of green text. Your wish is my command. Then the website kicked him back to the landing page. Nothing happened for a few days, so he figured it must be bogus, until he got home and found a package waiting for him at the front door. No name, no return markings. He quickly grabbed it and ran upstairs so that his parents wouldn't see, and sure enough, inside was a brand new Xbox. Overjoyed that it worked, he told his friend at school, and they didn't believe him, and so they said to wish for something bigger to prove that it was real. He went home and entered a new wish, for 2 of his old friends from his last school in another state to come visit. The screen said, "Your wish is my command." Later that night, he heard his parents talking about a car crash on the weekend, where a father died bringing home some presents for his kids, and some of the items were missing. A few days later, there was another package on his front step when he got home from school, but this time it was bigger and heavier. He dragged it inside and up the stairs, and when he opened it in his room, it filled with an ungodly stench. And when he got the nerve to look inside, he saw the faces of his 2 friends staring back at him, their heads neatly wrapped inside the box. In hysterics and not knowing what to do, he frantically called for his parents, and when they saw what was in the box, they assumed he had something to do with it, and they went to call the police. He frantically went back to the website and wished for his parents to keep quiet about it. Your wish is my command. Almost as soon as he hit enter, he heard the sound of glass breaking and 2 thuds. He went downstairs and saw his parents lying on the ground, dead from bullet wounds. He was arrested and stuck to his story, which landed him in a hospital for the rest of his life. Telling the story is a warning to anyone who would listen. Be careful what you wish for, I guess. Number 7. Send again. Another tale of an illegal purchase gone wrong. Someone who obviously remained anonymous online told the story of how they wanted to buy some party-enhancing substances from the dark web. They found someone on the black market who came highly recommended. What, is there a Yelp for these guys or something? He gave the seller the info for his family cottage, where he was going to secretly take his friends for a getaway party weekend. But when he got there was no package to be found. Figuring that the dealer tried to cheat him, he messaged saying that he never got the goods. Surprisingly, the seller responded, apologizing, and said that he would send more this week. So they rescheduled to have another party the next week. But when it rolled around, the same thing happened. So he messaged again, thinking this person just took the money and ran. But to his surprise, they said they would send twice as much to make up for it, all for free, which our party planner was skeptical to believe. When he got to his cottage the next weekend, there was no package waiting for him, but he did overhear his neighbors talking with someone over the fence. When he took a peek over, he saw his elderly neighbors giving a report to the police. They had been receiving box after box of illegal substances with no postmarkings, and they felt unsafe. Our party planner kicked himself. He wasn't getting cheated, he just entered the wrong address. So I guess there can be honor among criminals after all. Number 6. Willing victim. Now this one actually is a true story. In 2001, a German engineer named Bernd Brandes answered an ad on a dark web forum for people with a fetish for eating other people. Absolutely horrifying that these people exist, but he answered a post looking looking for a willing participant, wanting to be eaten. He met with Armin Mewvis, and they proceeded to videotape 4 hours of the two of them discussing what to do, and then they shared a meal made from Burns's reproductive organ. After which, Armin allowed him to go upstairs and take a bath, where he bled out until he was almost unconscious. Armin then stabbed him once, killing Bernd, and then he cooked and ate various parts of him over the next few days. He was arrested and jailed for his crimes, but since everyone involved was completely willing participants, he only received 8 years and 6 months in prison. He is now a vegetarian. Number 5. Red Rooms. Red Rooms are an urban legend that have been around as long as the dark web has. They are allegedly a place where disgusting people could watch horrible things happen to someone in the room and pay to decide what happens next. And obviously the room is red to denote what will happen in there. There are true horror stories of people browsing the dark web, stumbling into these places and seeing unforgettable things and never accessing the dark web again. There have been a few instances where people were caught and jailed for operating these things, and I won't give their names because that will simply give them more notoriety. But some have been caught after torturing and eventually killing up to 30 people, all at the request of people donating massive amounts of money. And if you ask me, those people are just as evil as the scum who would do this to another human being. Number 4. Light web. Okay, I need to talk about something light and fun after all that before we get to our top 3. While yes, a lot of the activity on the dark web is illegal and dark, as the name would suggest, there are sometimes wholesome moments from anonymous folk. On the same black market where you can find hitmen and illegal substances, some users have found more innocuous sellers. A German man who only sells soft pretzels, for instance. I guess they're so good he needs to sell them secretly. Or an auction for Bill Clinton's old saxophone, or my personal favorite, a Reddit user who didn't quite get what he asked for. The user bought a mind-blowing experience from someone on the black market. There was no explanation as to what it would be, but he purchased it anyway. When he got the package, he didn't know what to expect, but when he opened it, he didn't find a severed head or pills, but a used dustbuster. He commented that even though it wasn't what he expected, he wasn't disappointed, and busts dust with ease on the daily. Number 3. One-word story. Okay, back to the spooky stuff. This story was posted by a user named Anthony. He liked to play a game called One Word Story, where each player puts out one word at a time, and once someone says period, the sentence is over and read back aloud. He found a link to a site on the dark web for real players, promising an experience like no other. He played with a few large groups of people, but still the stories weren't good enough for him. Just before logging off for the night, he saw a private chat room in the horror section that only had one person in it. He clicked in, but it was locked with a password. Suddenly, the power in their apartment went out, only for a few seconds, and when the computer booted back up, it was still on the website. But now the chat room was open. He joined, and the other user began the game immediately with I, bold, because this can lead to some embarrassing sentences for the person to read. Anthony responded with C. They sent back you. He said through, and then your came back. And looking around his room, Anthony noticed his window letting in a breeze, so he said window. The user typed period. He read the sentence back aloud. I see you through your window. Haha, very funny. Clearly this person had played before and wanted to creep him out. They continued playing, swapping words back and forth until more sentences were made, but it seems the other user had a story planned the whole time. They traded words. You are not safe. This sent shivers down his spine. The next sentence became I am coming for you. There was a chat window next to the game screen, and Anthony told the other player to cut it out or he would leave the game. They replied with look out your window. As he did, he saw a figure dressed in black, standing near a lamppost. Then the lights went off in his apartment again. When they came back on, the figure was gone. Anthony looked back at the computer and one word was on the game screen. I. Tentatively, he responded am, and then one more appeared that made him cover his mouth to keep from screaming. It said here. I am here. He heard a loud pop, and suddenly there was a hole in his computer screen. In the center was a bullet, lodged into the monitor. It must have come from behind him. He ran upstairs and hid in his closet under his dirty clothes. He heard his front door open and footsteps walking through the house. He even saw their boots walking in the bedroom from under his closet door. He stayed there all night, even after they left, searching what seemed like the whole house. The next morning, he returned to his computer, and in the part of the screen that wasn't destroyed, the chat window was visible, with one word. Rematch? Number 2. Mariana's Web. Mariana's Web is allegedly the darkest, most secret, and hardest to access part of the dark web. It gets its name from the Marianas Trench, no, not my favorite band, the deepest place in the ocean. Supposedly, this is where you can find the darkest secrets humanity has ever had, from the Vatican secret archives to the location of Atlantis to databases of the world's intelligence organizations. Some even believe that there is an all-powerful AI running it. Many people have come forward saying they have decrypted data packages from Mariana's Web, but it's all been debunked. And what was proven to be real information was already available elsewhere. It is supposedly only accessible through quantum computers, which are super cool, but I don't have time to get into that right now. Either way, getting there isn't easy, and it's not meant to be, if it even exists. I don't think that I'd want all of humanity's secrets out there for anyone with a VPN to access, so let's hope it is just an urban legend. Number 1. Scavenger hunt. This story starts with Trevor visiting the dark web to buy a mystery box from the black market, something he'd done before. Nothing illegal, just interesting, useless stuff usually showed up. But this time he bought from a different seller, who offered ones for 18th birthdays. A few days later he got it, and the box strangely had instructions. It said that he was about to be set out on a birthday treasure hunt, and had to burn all of the letters once they'd been read or solved. Fun game, he thought, and I personally do love a scavenger hunt. The note was signed by Pete, his childhood best friend whom he'd not seen in years. Maybe he was the one who sent the box, or the seller contacted him to make it more personalized. The first clue was a piece of paper that said Van Mace. After staring at it for a few minutes, he realized it was an anagram for man cave, what he and Pete had called Pete's basement growing up. He burned the note, sure that he had solved the clue, and drove to his old friend's house. Using the spare key he still had, he entered the back door leading into the basement and saw the next clue, an ace of spades and a picture, stabbed into the wall with a folding pocket knife. He pulled the knife from the wall and examined the picture. It was another place he and Pete would go when they were younger, a clearing in a forested area behind their old school, not too far away. He burned the picture and the ace of spades, keeping it in mind for later. When he arrived at the clearing, there was a shovel sticking out of the ground near a fresh mound of dirt. Ah, spade. Very clever. He started digging through the dirt, and not long later he hit something solid. He kneeled down and brushed away the dirt to look for his next clue, but instead he saw the face of Pete. He was buried in a shallow grave, and there was blood on his shirt where he had been stabbed repeatedly. In shock and devastated by the loss of his friend, he called the police and told them he'd found a body and to please hurry. As soon as he hung up, he realized that he had burned every note with the instructions, that his fingerprints would be all over Pete's basement and the key he used to get in, and that the knife that was undoubtedly used on Pete was in his pocket, and he was holding the shovel that was used to bury him. Somebody had set him up, and who would ever believe a story as crazy as this?
In our number 10 spot, we have the Maine Hermit. So for a very long time, the people of North Pond, Maine, noticed that things were going missing in their homes. Not jewelry or typical items that you would assume would go missing in a home invasion, but food, such as peanut butter and apples. Since these items weren't of the highest value, the people just let it happen and didn't look too much into it. Until the invasions continuously happened close to, just 1,000 times, and that is not an exaggeration. Eventually, a man by the name of Christopher Knight was caught and was given the nickname of the Maine Hermit. Apparently, this man had been without human contact for 27 years as he was living alone in the woods. He would just steal what he needed to survive. Thankfully, he wasn't dangerous, but scary to think that he had been breaking into those people's homes so easily for years. I bet you they all installed security systems after he was caught. In our number 9 spot, we have the secret tunnels. It has been long thought to be an urban legend that beneath a lot of schools are secret, mysterious tunnels. Well, apparently, that is actually true. These tunnels are said to connect to places or even to lead to hell. Well, I'm not so sure the hell part is real, but the tunnels do exist in a lot of schools throughout the US. From people that have seen them, they have said that the tunnels are dark and cold and truly just the most spooky, probably where the idea of them leading to hell came from. They are mostly abandoned, and any source of light that was once in them is completely gone. They were believed to have been used before as perhaps an easy sort of transportation between the buildings and the campus during the colder months, as they are typically in places that experience colder climates. In our number 8 spot, we have the University of Rochester swimming pool. Once upon a time, schools used to have swimming pools, and it was a huge attraction. There would be swimming teams and competitions, and then over time they stopped being made with them and they became less popular. They became abandoned even in some schools like the University of Rochester, for example. They housed a swimming pool that eventually was just used for the storage of desks and chairs. The desks and chairs are piled so high that it truly is a creepy sight. Apparently, there are also red footprints along the side of the pool, and some have speculated about them as they look like blood. Was this pool discontinued because of a killing? It's possible. Am I starting another urban legend? Possibly. In our number 7 spot, we have more anesthesia, please. There used to be a rumor that some people, when going into major surgery, would get anesthesia to numb the pain and put them to sleep, but it wouldn't fully work. It was thought to be untrue and just a rumor until a few cases were revealed to have actually been real. Apparently, about 0.02% of people that have surgery fall asleep but still feel the pain as they require more than most. Yikes, that's the most scary thing ever. Truly the worst nightmare you can imagine. They are asleep, but they still feel the pain of being ripped open. Apparently it has been reported that the people that this has happened to, unfortunately, have taken their own life not too long afterward due to the PTSD from the event. Wow, truly horrific. In our number 6 spot, we have the Bloody Mary. No, not the delicious drink that is, fun fact, my favorite beverage. Canadians call them Caesars, but I have heard that the rest of the world calls them Bloody Marys. Anyways, you know that fun children's game where you look into a mirror and say Bloody Mary 3 times and a Bloody Mary is supposed to appear? Such fun. Some children's games amaze me. Well, I'm not about to say that this game is real and to run to your mirrors right now to try it. I wish. Actually, no, I don't wish. But actually, this game is based on a real person. You're supposed to see the ghost of Mary, the first Queen of England from the 1500s. Apparently, she was quite violent, and that is where the name Bloody Mary came from, as she is said to haunt and kill the person who summons her in the mirror. I was too much of a scaredy cat to play this game as a kid. In our number 5 spot, we have the Body Farms. Yeah, the name of this one totally creeps me out, and the fact that this actually exists is horrifying. I mean, the main purpose of these body farms, where dead bodies are lined up for observing, is so that scientists can study them. Apparently, such farms have dozens upon dozens of decomposing dead bodies. Apparently, what we can learn from these bodies can help police solve unsolved cases. A lot of unidentified bodies are donated to these farms, as well as people donate them too. I mean, I kinda like the idea of helping with scientific research once I'm gone. But then again, I also like the idea of being put in a cozy bed with all my fave things for eternity too. So, a decision for later, Mel. In our number 4 spot, we have real Halloween props. Do you remember being a kid and walking up to a house to go trick-or-treating on Halloween and looking at the decorations and thinking, what if one of these decorations were real? And then 1 second later, the man sitting on the porch that you thought was a prop scarecrow turned out to be real by jumping in your face and growling at you? Yep, that happened to me, another true story. Apparently there have actually been quite a few cases near Halloween where people have thought real life horrific things have been props. Like in the case of a woman who took her own life and hung from a tree, and for almost a week after Halloween, people hadn't noticed that she wasn't a prop. Well, my inner child is terrified thinking of the amount of times I may have actually stumbled across real things like this. Hopefully I never did. In our number 3 spot, we have the garbage legend. Did you ever get told to not hide in the garbage can because you might be accidentally thrown out with the trash? Well, that was not just some old story that parents told their kids to practice safe play. No, this story actually stemmed from truth. Apparently, a boy was hiding in a duffel bag while playing hide and seek, and his mom accidentally threw it out with the trash, and the garbage man even put him in the back of the trunk, but thankfully, the boy was discovered before the trash was crushed up. Apparently, there are some other stories where people weren't as lucky. That is the most tragic thing. I remember hearing about a mom that turned the washer on when her young one was hiding in it, and that shook me up, but this is honestly just as horrible. In our number 2 spot, we have buried alive. Ever heard that phrase, being buried alive? Yeah, well, some thought it to be an urban legend, just a phrase. But the origin of where that phrase came from actually comes from truth. Apparently back in the day there was unfortunately quite a few cases where people were buried alive. Yep, so much so that it became common practice to put a bell in the grave so that the person could ring it if they were actually buried alive. Of course, we are better equipped with tools and are able to know these days, and that's not common anymore. But still quite chilling to think that it was once an issue and the phrase came from truth. In our number 1 spot we have Charlie No Face. There is an old urban legend told about a man named Charlie with no face. Depending on who told the story, Charlie No Face could be a monster, ghost, or someone who had an accident and no longer had a face, but apparently he would walk the streets of Big Beaver, Pennsylvania in the night. People would try to spot him and would drive the streets at night to see him. Well, apparently, the story is actually true. No, he wasn't a monster or a ghost, but a man named Raymond Robinson, and was a normal guy that unfortunately had an accident and it disfigured his face. From embarrassment, he would only walk the streets at night so people didn't see him. My bro actually had a horrible accident not too long ago, and not gonna lie, reading about the story had me very emotional. Thankfully, it wasn't as bad as this guy and he's alive and recovering, but it certainly gives you perspective as to what's important in life.
Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have Ed, Ed, and Eddie. Ed, Ed, and Eddie ran for 5 seasons, and it's been rumored that among all these episodes that were aired, there was one that went missing and was only shown once on TV before it never aired again. The rumor started in 2001, and it was alleged that this missing episode was called The Scarecrow Boy. For a short summary of the episode, Sarah puts on a play, her own version of The Wizard of Oz, casting herself as Dorothy, Jimmy as the Tin Man, Eddie as the Cowardly Lion, Ed as the Scarecrow, and Double D as the director. After rehearsing, Sarah becomes so mad at Ed for messing up his lines that she decides to lock him out of the house. Since he was in his costume when this happened, the other kids in the neighborhood began making fun of him, calling him Scarecrow Boy. Even crazier, every time he is called Scarecrow Boy, he becomes stiffer, eventually turning into one. There's pretty much no evidence that this episode ever existed, other than fans claiming that they once watched it on TV. In our number 9 spot today, we have Inspector Gadget. In the show Inspector Gadget, we never see the evil Dr. Claw's face on screen. However, there's been a long-standing urban legend that we did see him at one point. In this one mysterious episode, we got a glimpse of his face, and that was later used as the inspiration for the action figure of Dr. Claw, which now shows his face. The creators knew this was a huge deal at the time, and when you went to buy the action figure in stores, they covered up his face in the packaging, so you had to buy it back in the day to see what Mr. Claw looked like. These days, you can just Google it and it'll be the first thing that pops up. His face is also briefly visible in the Inspector Gadget game for the Super Nintendo, but since the quality of the game was pretty bad, we never got a good look until the action figure. In our number 8 spot today, we have Dungeons & Dragons. In the 1980s Dungeons & Dragons cartoon show, there is a famous urban legend that the last episode of the show shared a crazy secret about the entire show that changes everything. The episode itself also reportedly never made it to TV, but some people claimed that it was accidentally aired once. This episode revealed that all of the characters were actually killed in a roller coaster accident, and they ended up in the afterlife. The writer who made the real final episode has denied these claims numerous times, and he even uploaded his script to prove it. In the ending, the kids deliberated after being offered a choice whether to go back to Earth or continue fighting in the D&D world. In our number 7 spot today, we have Gravity Falls. The story with the show Gravity Falls was that allegedly it was supposed to be 3 seasons, but was cut down to only 2 seasons after Alex Hirsch decided he wanted to wrap up the show. Apparently, many fans think that there were a lot of unanswered questions that would have been answered in this rumored 3rd season. The source of this idea comes from a Reddit AMA done after the season 1 finale, where a fan asked how many seasons he'd ideally like the show to last, with Hirsch's response being that he originally considered 3 seasons but now believed that was too much. Hirsch would say many times over the years that the show was never planned to have 3 seasons, and blames the rumor on the fact that he was not allowed to announce that season 2 was the last season when he first learned so. In our number 6 spot today, we have Phineas and Ferb. Phineas and Ferb is one of those cartoons where there are so many strange theories, it's hard to know where to start. But the most insane one that I have ever heard of claims that Dr. Doofenshmirtz, the evil madman, is actually the father of Phineas. The main evidence is that Phineas and Doofenshmirtz both have the same shaped heads. threads. Let's break this down. We know that Linda, Phineas's mom, and Doof actually dated way back, so not hard to assume that they could have birthed a child. The story is that the couple dated when they were both really young and eventually split up. Both of them go on to get married to other people and have kids with them. That explains Candace's father. After a few years, Linda either splits from Candace's dad and has a fling with Doof, or she cheats with Doof. Either way, it results in the birth of Phineas. Then, years later, she meets Ferb's dad, they get married, and then they turn into one big family. In our number 5 spot today, we have strawberry shortcake. Okay, so basically, this isn't necessarily inherently terrifying, but it's kind of crazy to see the power of rumors and how even while the truth is out there, some people will still believe falsities. Basically, this story has to do with strawberry shortcake and how there was some troll out there who claimed to be the niece of someone working for the entertainment company that makes the show. Basically, this person went on to spread a ton of rumors, mostly relating to season 4, that includes a ton of false synopsis, and they even manipulated some audio and released it as proof. In the end, this of course was bound to cause trouble, so people began trying to clear the air, and of course once the season was actually released, it was clear that this troll had just released a bunch of lies. In the end, however, despite all of the proof that these were false claims, there are many people out there who still choose to reject the truth and take these lies as reality. In our number 4 spot today, we have Mickey Mouse. So basically, this is a legend that starts out 100% true. Basically, it starts out saying that on September 1st, 1939, the BBC broadcast of the Mickey Mouse cartoon Mickey's Gala premiere was abruptly interrupted and ceased due to the sudden outbreak of World War II. That's terrible, and it's absolutely terrifying. The legend goes on to claim that after the war ended and when broadcasts resumed, that the episode was picked up in the exact same moment as when it had previously been interrupted all those years ago. That certainly would have been slightly symbolic, but also exceptionally eerie, but it turns out that that is not true. While it is true that the cartoon was indeed the last program shown by the BBC before suspension, it aired in its entirety before the interruption in 1939, as well as after the interruption in 1946. It is believed that this legend came from a 1984 documentary which showed exactly what the legend described, but this was likely placed in the documentary for dramatic effect. In our number 3 spot today, we have Gravity Falls 2. For another Gravity Falls urban legend, we have this one that circulated the internet. Basically, it comes in the form of a screenshot that shows Dipper and Mabel with a slender man standing there watching them from behind. Definitely creepy, but turns out that this is in fact not real. The actual episode shows no slender man, and creator Alex Hirsch actually commented on this legend in an interview. He noted that one of the very first times he overheard someone talking about the show after its premiere was when he heard someone telling another person that the legend was true. Despite this rumor not being true at all, there is actually a slender man appearance in Gravity Falls media, and it's a one-panel cameo in the story titled Face It, which is in the graphic novel Gravity Falls Lost Legends. In our number 2 spot today, we have Hey Arnold. Hey Arnold is an absolutely classic cartoon, but this legend surrounding the episode titled Pigeon Man is quite dark. Basically, in this episode, there is a character who is called the Pigeon Man, and the legend suggests that in the original ending of this episode, he takes his own life after finding his home destroyed. The legend continues on to say that Nickelodeon forced the writers to change the ending because they were worried it was too dark, and if this were true, I would certainly be inclined to agree. In the end, however, this legend was in fact debunked by the show creator himself, Craig Bartlett. That was never the intended ending, and I think that's probably a good thing. In the actual ending of the show, the Pigeon Man flies away with the pigeons, and because of this dark rumor, people speculate that this was actually his death, but that is also likely untrue because of his subsequent appearances later on. In our number 1 spot today, we have King of the Hill. King of the Hill had one episode that was subject to the internet's weirdest and darkest rumors. The episode in question is called Pygmalion. The episode as a whole is wild, and it's really dark and creepy, which is exactly why it isn't really a surprise that there's a dark legend surrounding it. Basically, in this episode, there's a character called Trip Larson who suffers from quite a few serious things, and he also inherited the Larson's pork products plant from his father. Long story short, he does some messed up stuff and ends up meeting a gruesome fate in the end. I'll spare you the gory details. So basically, according to urban legend, it says that after Tripp's death, while Peggy and Luann are talking and celebrating, you can see an incredibly graphic and dark image of Tripp's body behind them. There is simply no evidence that this ever happened, and it's likely just a really dark story that had its origins somewhere on the internet, but you really just wonder exactly where this sort of thing came from.
Starting off this countdown, we have the Alaska Triangle. Turns out that Alaska has its very own Bermuda Triangle. This is referred to as the area in the southeast, to the northern borough region, to the western metropolis of Anchorage. Apparently, more than 20,000 people have gone missing in this area. That's just in the past half century alone. And these people go missing without a trace. No one knows what happens to them or where they went. So some believe that this area is home to mythological type beasts that kidnap and then eat these people. Whereas others believe that this area is home to some dark vortex that sucks these poor souls in. Regardless of what you believe in, one thing is for sure: this triangle has and continues to take the lives of many. In our ninth spot, we have the UFO base. And if you guys are still watching, hopefully smash that like button. Let me know in the comments below that you're still here. Hi. It is believed that Alaska is home to a top secret UFO base, even though it's not that top secret if people claim that there is one. Anyways, Mount Hayes is the highest mountain in the eastern Alaskan range. That's the place where people believe extraterrestrials and UFOs are located. It all started in the 1940s when a number of UFOs were spotted in that area. Eventually, the sightings got more and more frequent that the FBI was called in to investigate the area. And the sightings haven't stopped. There have been hundreds of sightings throughout the years. In fact, Pat Price, a former CIA remote viewer, even said that the mountain, and I quote, housed one of the aliens' largest bases. So this urban legend might not be so much of a legend. In our 8th spot, we have the Captain Cook. This is a cute little hotel located in downtown Anchorage. According to legends though, this hotel is extremely haunted. Apparently a woman took her life in the hotel in the 70s, and her ghost can be seen wandering the halls. In particular, she is said to haunt the woman's restroom there. Visitors also claim that doors will open and close on their own, and the lights will flicker on and off by themselves. According to locals, this woman is bound to the hotel and doesn't know how to escape it. So she's just stuck there, aimlessly wandering the halls for eternity. I don't know why she would haunt the bathroom though. Like, that's not a place I would hang around in if I was a ghost. Moving on at number 7, we have Keeloot. A Keeloot is said to be an evil earth spirit that appears in the form of a black dog that's completely hairless, but it does have hair on its little feet. But only its feet. Apparently this dog then stalks travelers at night and has been known to attack and kill them. Those that have apparently seen this spirit say they saw dog tracks in the snow that then disappeared right in front of their own eyes. That's apparently a sign that the Keeloot is nearby. In Inuit legend, the Keeloot is said to be a spirit of death. Others believe that it's a real-life cryptid. Scariest part? Apparently, just by looking at this creature, they can cause victims to become disoriented and spiral into madness. They then will become lost and perish from hypothermia. The Keeloot waits until this moment and then attacks and eats its victim. In our 6th spot, we have Motherlode Lodge. Located in Palmer, this lodge is said to be very haunted. In fact, it literally has been known to spook even the hardest of souls. According to local legend, this hotel is haunted by a number of different spirits. Most famously, there's this black apparition ghost, given that name because it always appears as a black cloudy apparition. People have seen this spirit wandering the grounds. Another ghost is a figure that's dressed in black. This figure likes to show itself in mirror reflections. Just sounds like Bloody Mary to me. No thank you. On top of that, people have reported hearing strange noises in the middle of the night and have seen curtains open and close by itself. It's a good place to go ghost hunting, but a bad place to spend the night. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with the aliens. In late fall through winter to early spring, the northern lights can be seen on nights with clear skies. I've always wanted to see the northern lights, like they're quite beautiful. But according to a weird urban legend, it states that the northern lights are produced by aliens. Yeah, you heard me. Legend goes that aliens create these beautiful lights so that they can then fly through the air undetected. In fact, cosmonaut Ivan Wagner was filming the northern lights when he captured a UFO flying by. Plus, there's already a ton of UFO and alien sightings in Alaska. So, could it be that this legend is true? That the aliens are behind this colorful display of lights? Moving on to number 4, we have the sea monster. Located in the waters near Kodiak Island lurks a close relative to the Loch Ness Monster. It has since been given the name the Kodiak Sea Monster. It all started in 1971 when a group of fishermen set sail. That's when they encountered this massive sea beast. One of the fishermen said, and I quote, "We don't know what it was, but it had a grayish color and we couldn't see any fins or any tail, and it never made any noise. It would just come up and you could see the head and part of the body." Another man described it as being 30 feet long and had a head on it that looked kinda like a horse. Then in 2002, it was seen again, this time by a different group of fishermen. They described it as having a massive head and neck. They couldn't tell if the head was a foot in diameter or 3 feet in diameter. To this day, the beast has never been caught, so maybe it's still out there, continuing to scare local fishermen. In our third spot, we have the Alaskan Vortex. So let's talk more about this Alaskan triangle. The missing persons rate in that area is more than twice the national average. It's insane. As I mentioned briefly, some people believe that a vortex is to blame for all the disappearances. Legend goes that the vortex basically sucks people in and then transports them to different dimensions. Let's look at some of the facts used to support this theory. For starters, apparently the area has a huge number of magnetic anomalies. It throws off compasses and has even made people feel sick. A number of rescue workers that have gone into the area have claimed to feel disoriented, lightheaded, and have experienced auditory hallucinations. This could be evidence that a vortex is present. Moving on to number 2, we have the Bigfoot. Alaska apparently has its own Bigfoot. They call it the hairy beast, and apparently it lives in Port Chatham. It all started back in the 1930s when a number of people went missing in this area. In 1931, a man named Andrew Kamluck went out logging. He was later found dead in the forest with a bad blow to his head. Around the same time, another man was out in the area and randomly disappeared without a trace. And then another man named Tom Larson was out chopping wood when he saw this hairy beast on the beach. The creature was just standing there staring at him. It didn't attack him though. There are more stories that involve people mysteriously disappearing or dying in the area, and they blame it on this mysterious hairy beast. In fact, on a number of other occasions, people have seen like weird man-like beast footprints in the mud, which they believe is from this terrifying creature. And in our number 1 spot, we have the Kushtaka. Otters are cute little cuddly animals that are pretty innocent, right? Well, not in Alaska. You gotta be careful with the otters out there, because they might actually be shape-shifting creatures known as Kushtaka. The Kushtaka is said to be a cross between an otter and a man. In some stories, these creatures are said to be helpful, but in most stories, they are deceptive and evil creatures. They tend to mimic the screams of women and children so that fishermen will be like, "Oh my god, someone's out there, I need to help them, I'll save them," and then they go to help and they just get killed. They are also said to appear when people are vulnerable. Maybe there's a lost fisherman or hiker or someone that's injured. They'll come and be like, "We're here to help you, to rescue you." Instead, they'll lead you deeper into the wilderness and either tear you to pieces or turn you into a Kushtaka to prevent your soul from ever being able to reincarnate. Wow, that's terrifying. Plus, the fact that they can also shapeshift into an otter is really weird. Like, so maybe you're out on the water and you're like, "Oh, cute, look at that little otter," and then all of a sudden it's like psych, and then grabs you and pulls you into the water. Watch out.
Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have the Headless Ghost Miner. According to the legend, deep in the remote wilderness of Yukon, there once was a thriving mining town. In the late 1800s, tragedy struck when a miner lost his head in a horrific accident deep within the mine shaft. The incident left the town in shock, and the legend of the Headless Ghost Miner was born. Locals claim to this day the spirit of the miner roams the abandoned mining town searching for his lost head. Witnesses report encountering featuring a spectral figure dressed in tattered mining gear carrying a flickering lantern. Despite the absence of a head, the ghostly miner emits blood-curdling screams that echo through the night. Those who have crossed paths with the headless ghost miner speak of an overwhelming sense of dread and an intense feeling of being watched. Some claim to have witnessed the miner's lantern light flicker and heard his disembodied voice calling out for help. The legend has been passed down through generations, warning people to stay away from the haunted mining town after dark. Whether the legend is rooted in real tragedy or fueled by the imagination of storytellers, the tale of the headless ghost miner continues to send shivers down the spines of those who venture into the desolate reaches of Yukon's wilderness. In our number 9 spot today, we have the ghost train of Stony Trail. Located on the outskirts of Calgary in Alberta, Stony Trail is a popular highway that encircles the city. According to the legend, late at night, a ghostly train can be seen and heard traveling alongside the highway, even though there are no train tracks in the vicinity. Witnesses claim that the apparition of an old-fashioned train, complete with smoke billowing from its stack and the sound of its whistle, appears out of nowhere and follows the path of Stony Trail for a short distance before vanishing into thin air. Some even report feeling a chill in the air and a sense of unease when encountering the ghost train. There are various theories surrounding the origins of this paranormal phenomenon. One popular belief is that the ghostly train is a residual haunting, a recording of past events imprinting on the surrounding environment. According to local lore, a train derailed in the area decades ago, resulting in multiple fatalities. It is said that the spirits of the deceased continue to haunt the land, manifesting as the ghost train. Whether the sightings are the result of overactive imaginations, optical illusions, or actual paranormal activity, the legend of the ghost train of Stony Trail continues to intrigue and captivate those who travel along the highway late at night, reminding them that the boundary between the living and the supernatural may not be as distinct as it seems. In our number 8 spot today, we have the Grey Man. According to the legend, the Grey Man is a spectral figure that haunts the vast prairies and desolate stretches of land in Saskatchewan. The Grey Man is described as a tall and shadowy figure wearing a long, tattered coat and a wide-brimmed hat that obscures his face. He is often seen wandering aimlessly in remote areas, appearing and disappearing mysteriously. The legend suggests that encountering the Grey Man brings a profound sense of unease and foreboding to those who witness him. Locals and travelers claim to have seen the Grey Man in various locations across the province, particularly in isolated rural areas and near abandoned homesteads. Witnesses describe feeling an overwhelming sense of being watched or followed, and some have even reported hearing disembodied whispers or the sound of footsteps when there is no one around. The origins of the Grey Man legend are shrouded in mystery. Some speculate that he may be the ghost of a lost soul or a restless spirit bound to the land. Others believe that he serves as a warning or a harbinger of impending doom. The legend of the Grey Man adds a very eerie and supernatural element to Saskatchewan's expansive and secluded landscapes. It continues to intrigue and unsettle those who venture into the remote corners of the province, perpetuating the fascination with the unknown and the paranormal in Saskatchewan folklore. Whether the Grey Man is a figment of imagination or a genuine spectral entity, his legend continues to captivate the imagination of locals and visitors alike. In our number 7 spot today, we have the Wendigo. The Wendigo is a creature you may have heard of before, and they are a creature deeply rooted in Indigenous folklore and is said to roam the wilderness of Manitoba. According to legend, the Wendigo is a malevolent spirit or entity that takes the form of a gaunt and emaciated creature. It is often depicted as towering in stature with sunken eyes, long limbs, and antler-like protrusions from its head. The Wendigo is said to be driven by insatiable hunger and an unquenchable desire for human flesh. The legend warns that those who venture into the remote forests of Manitoba may encounter the Wendigo. It is believed that the creature possesses humans, driving them to madness and human consumption. The Wendigo is said to embody the darkest aspects of human greed and gluttony, and the origins of the Wendigo legend are deeply rooted in the folklore of the indigenous peoples of the region, particularly the Algonquin tribes. The story serves as a cautionary tale warning against the dangers years of selfishness and the consequences of succumbing to one's primal desires. The legend of the Wendigo continues to captivate the imagination and instill fear in those who venture into the wilderness of Manitoba. In our number 6 spot today, we have the ghostly hitchhiker of Blue Ghost Tunnel. Located in Thorold near Welland Canal here in Ontario, the Blue Ghost Tunnel is an abandoned railway tunnel with a reputation for being haunted. As the legend goes, the ghostly hitchhiker is said to be a young woman who tragically lost her life in the tunnel many years ago. According to the stories, the ghostly hitchhiker is often seen standing near the entrance of the tunnel, dressed in outdated clothing. She appears as a spectral figure, pale and ethereal, emitting an eerie blue glow, hence the name Blue Ghost Tunnel. Legend has it that the ghostly hitchhiker is known to wander the nearby roads, seemingly seeking a ride. Those who have encountered her claim that she vanishes without a trace once they approach or attempt to interact with her. The Blue Ghost Tunnel itself adds to the mystique surrounding this legend. It has a dark and eerie atmosphere with reports of strange sounds, apparitions, and an overall feeling of unease among those who venture inside. The legend has captivated the imaginations of locals and paranormal enthusiasts, drawing visitors to the tunnel in search of ghostly encounters and supernatural experiences. Whether it's a tale born from tragedy, folklore, or simply a product of people's vivid imaginations, the legend of the ghostly hitchhiker of Blue Ghost Tunnel adds an air of mystery and spookiness to Ontario's urban legends. In our number 5 spot today, we have the ghost ship of Northumberland Strait. According to legend, residents of Nova Scotia's Northumberland Strait have reported sightings of a mysterious phantom ship sailing the waters under the cover of night. The ship is said to be a spectral vessel glowing with an otherworldly light and surrounded by an eerie aura. The sightings often describe the ship as an old, weathered vessel with tattered sails billowing in the wind. Witnesses claim that the ship appears and disappears without a trace, leaving no sign of its presence or destination. The ghost ship of Northumberland Strait is believed to be a vessel lost at sea, doomed to wander the waters for eternity. Some versions of the legend suggest that the ship carries the restless spirits of sailors who perished in a tragic maritime accident. Local fishermen and sailors have shared chilling accounts of encountering the ghost ship, describing a bone-chilling silence and a very unsettling feeling of being watched as the phantom vessel passes by. In our number 4 spot today, we have the Ghost Bride of St. John. Legend has it that in the late 19th century, a young bride was preparing for her wedding day in St. John, New Brunswick. Tragically, on the day of her wedding, the bride's groom-to-be perished in a shipwreck off the treacherous Bay of Fundy. Heartbroken and devastated, the bride decided to take her own life by jumping off of a cliff into the turbulent waters below. Since then, locals claim to have witnessed this ghostly apparition of a veiled bride wandering near the cliffs overlooking the bay. She is said to appear in a flowing white wedding gown, her face hidden by a very sheer veil. Some have reported hearing her mournful cries or the faint sound of wedding bells carried by the wind. According to the legend, the ghost bride is forever trapped in a state of sorrow and longing, doomed to wander the cliffs in search of her lost love. Some believe that encountering the ghost bride is an omen of misfortune and impending tragedy. The story of the Ghost Bride of St. John's has become an enduring part of New Brunswick's folklore, captivating locals and visitors alike. In our number 3 spot today, we have Ogopogo. The legend of Ogopogo is one of the most famous urban legends in British Columbia, Canada, particularly centered around the Okanagan Lake in the interior of the province. Ogopogo is believed to be a serpentine lake monster resembling a giant sea serpent or a prehistoric creature that inhabits the depths of the lake. According to indigenous legends, the Silks people have long revered Ogopogo as a powerful water spirit or guardian of the lake. The name Ogopogo is derived from the Salish word meaning water demon. It is said to have a long body, dark greenish-brown scales, and a serpentine head, often described as resembling a cross between a snake and a dinosaur. Over the years, numerous eyewitness accounts and alleged sightings have added to the lore surrounding Ogopogo. Witnesses claim to have seen humps, a snake-like creature, or large disturbances in the water suggestive of a large unknown creature swimming beneath the surface. Some accounts even describe Ogopogo emerging partially from the water water resembling a massive serpent. The legend of Ogopogo has attracted enthusiasts, researchers, and skeptics alike. Various expeditions, sonar scans, and photographic investigations have been conducted in an attempt to capture evidence of the creature's existence. The legend continues to thrive through books, artwork, festivals, and the ongoing fascination with this mysterious lake monster. Whether Ogopogo is a mythical creature, a misidentification of known animals, or an actual remnant from a bygone era, the legend persists, adding a touch of mystery and wonder to the beautiful Okanagan region and its majestic lake. In our number 2 spot today, we have the haunting of Beaconsfield Historic House. Beaconsfield Historic House, located in Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island, is a Victorian mansion with a rich history. According to local tales, the house is haunted by the spirit of a former resident, a young woman named Lucy Maud Montgomery. Montgomery, renowned as the author of the famous novel Anne of Green Gables, is said to have had a deep connection with the house during her time there. Visitors and staff have reported strange occurrences within the house, including unexplained footsteps, doors opening and closing on their own, and the sound of disembodied laughter echoing through the halls. Some have even claimed to catch glimpses of a ghostly figure resembling Montgomery herself. Many believe that Montgomery's lingering spirit continues to reside within Beaconsfield House, perhaps drawn by the memories and inspiration it holds. The ghostly tales surrounding this historic house have captivated locals and visitors alike, adding an eerie charm to its already compelling history. And finally, in our number 1 spot today, we have the Devil's Footprints. Story goes that one winter's night, a small coastal community in Newfoundland and Labrador woke up to find a peculiar set of footprints in the freshly fallen snow. The footprints were incredibly large and hoof-like in shape, leaving the villagers perplexed and fearful. The tracks stretched across rooftops, gardens, and even crossed over bodies of water, defying the laws of nature. Terrified, the townspeople believed that the tracks were the work of the devil himself. They believed that the devil had come to their village to wreak havoc and spread fear among them. Some claimed to have heard eerie laughter in the distance or witnessed strange lights in the sky, accompanying the appearance of the footprints. As word spread, similar sightings of the devil's footprints were reported in neighboring communities, intensifying the fear and intrigue surrounding the legend. Many attempted to follow the tracks, but they always seemed to vanish mysteriously, leaving no trace behind. To this day, the legend of the devil's footprints remains a chilling mystery in the province. Some attribute the phenomenon to natural causes like unusual weather patterns or hoaxes, while others believe it to be the work of supernatural forces. Regardless of its origins, the legend continues to captivate the imaginations of locals and visitors alike, reminding them of the mysterious and otherworldly aspects of the region's folklore.
Starting us off at number 10 is the White Lady of Balati Drive. In Quezon City, there's an avenue named after the row of trees that used to line it. Although they are now gone, in Filipino culture it is believed that baleti trees are inhabited by mystical beings and other supernatural creatures, and despite their removal from the area, it is rumored to remain just as haunted as the day they were planted. There are few variations of the legend, but the most popular is that there was once a woman who died after being hit by a taxi along the baleti-lined road late at night, and whoever hit her was never caught. Since then, it's said she haunts the roads, scaring unsuspecting taxi drivers who dare trespass alone. Some say she might even appear to be lost and wait for a taxi to pull over so she can come inside and terrify the driver by revealing her true form, a corpse covered in blood and bruises. However, others say sometimes she will just disappear out of thin air. Many have believed the tale, including a police officer and captain of the QCPD who was eventually suspended for cowardice after he refused to patrol the area after a rise in incidents. Allegedly, each accident claimed that a woman in white was what had caused the issue, and so the officer refused to investigate, fearing he too would become haunted by the White Lady of Baleti Drive. Next up at number 9 is Death by Slippers. I've heard some crazy urban legends in my day, and this one might just be the most out there. Apparently, there's an urban legend in the Philippines that states you must bring your slippers inside the house at night. Why is that, I'm sure you're wondering? Well, according to the legend, anyone who forgets to bring their slippers in at night will be visited by a dangerous cult that takes the slippers and kills the owner. Apparently, each night a group of Satanists roam the streets
looking for victims to sacrifice to their evil overlord, and apparently the only thing you have to do to protect yourself from being their next victim is bring your shoes inside at the end of the day. Okay. Listen, I'm not saying it couldn't be real, but I am saying this sounds a lot like something a really tired parent might say to make sure that their kids didn't leave all their stuff lying around outside. Either way, if I am ever in the Philippines, you best believe I'll be bringing my slippers inside, because I'm not about to tempt fate and accidentally get killed by an evil Satanist cult. Next up at number 8, the tikbalang. Said to lurk in the mountains and rainforests of the Philippines, the tikbalang is a tall, bony, humanoid creature with the head and hooves of a horse. To me, it kind of resembles a half-transformed werewolf meets centaur, which is just straight up terrifying. Although legends differ from region to region, in the north it most commonly enjoys pranking travelers and making them hallucinate so that they get lost along the path. But in the south, its origins are much darker. Down south, stories of the tikbalang speak of an evil, red-eyed demon horse prone to fits of rage and continuously puffing on a cigar. It's said to be the result of a soul that did not make it out of the womb. Without having ever existed on the earthly plane in human form, it now haunts this realm, preying on the living as revenge. According to the myth, however, all you need to do to defeat this terrifying demon horse is pluck 3 hairs from its mane, taming the creature and making it indebted to you forever. That, or just hope you come across one in the north, I guess. Next up at number 7, the matrakulan. These terrifying creatures are kind of like the sick and twisted version of the Immaculate Conception. As legend has it, at night when everyone is asleep, they will sneak into the room of a virgin woman and impregnate her without her knowing. Apparently the ghoul is invisible to the human eye, so there's no way to protect against their devilish advances. Then after a few months inside, the monster will return to take what he gave to the woman, but first killing her and then consuming the life that was growing inside of her. There are also some versions where the matrakulan will prey on already pregnant women, and in this case, it's believed that the husband can protect his wife from getting a visit from the creature by swinging a butterfly knife, or balasang, over her stomach during labor. I mean, from top to bottom, this entire legend is incredibly dark, and I'm just praying that there is no chance they exist in real life. Next up at number 6 is the chanak. It's very common in many cultures and religions for new lives to be baptized, mainly because it signifies the young person as being a part of the Christian faith, and it symbolizes a life in devotion to Jesus Christ. And while some cultures believe it's not necessary to be baptized in order to get into heaven, it's definitely the preferred method. But due to the Spanish colonization in the Philippines in the 16th century, their version is a bit more intense. As the story goes, many believe that any souls who are not baptized by the Catholic Church in their early years go into a state of limbo after death and will return to earth as evil spirits. These spirits are called the chanak and are said to lure their prey deep into the woods, tricking them by shape-shifting to look like a little one abandoned and crying. Once they are picked up and have the victims right where they want them, the vampiric creatures will morph back into their true devilish form and attack. The only way to save yourself is either turn your clothes on inside out in hopes that the chanak will be amused and set you free of the enchantment. That, or some garlic and a rosary, can also do the trick in most cases. Coming in at number 5, the Mamba Barang. A terrifying Filipino folklore witch, the Mamba Barang uses their powers to get revenge on those they feel have either wronged them or those who they are envious of. As legend has it, the Mamba Barang will use their evil powers in order to conjure spirits and manipulate insects to enter the body of any person they choose, most often through voodoo rituals. What is scary about the Mamba Barang is that they're not some evil demon or mythical creature, but just some ordinary human woman who practices black magic, and once they decide to conjure a spell on you, there is not much of anything that can be done to stop it. Once the ritual has been completed, she will instruct the insects who it is they are to infest, and they will climb inside the body using any orifice required. There is often pain at the site of entry, for example an intense earache if they go through the ear, or even hemorrhoids if they use the south door. But these are not like other diseases. They will resist all known treatment. In fact, there are no known medicines or cures for any of the afflictions caused by the witch. The only way to be freed of the torment is to hope that the witch allows the infestation of bugs to leave your body. Otherwise, you're fresh out of luck. In most cases, the torture will continue until it takes your life, and only then will the horde of bugs evacuate your body. Coming in at number 4, the Amalanag. Said to be the Filipino version of a half-zombie, half-vampire, the Amalanag is an undead demon that is believed to not have transferred its power to a relative during their time of death. This results in the demons rising from their graves so that they can lurk in the woods, feasting on the blood of the nearby villagers. Their preferred method of attack is usually believed to be through biting the neck, since, you know, vampires and all. However, there are some versions of the legend that state they will tickle the victim to death while simultaneously absorbing their life force. I mean, if I had to pick a way to go, this sounds better than being stabbed and left to slowly bleed out, no? Well, I do also hate being tickled, so I don't know, maybe not. It all really depends on how long it would take for me to be drained of all my life force, I guess. The good news is that you can escape them should you ever find yourself face to face with these demons. It's advised that you climb up a tree or jump into the closest body of water, as they're unable to climb and they have a great fear of water as it will turn them into a pile of worms. Next up at number 3, the Mananananggal. Said to be a vicious, flesh-eating, blood-sucking demon, the Mananananggal is definitely one of the creepiest urban legends I've ever heard of. In their true form, they're described as being hideous women who have the ability to sever their body into two, something that they must apparently do in order to feed. When they detach their torso from their lower half, they become vulnerable, so they must hide their lower half to keep themselves from being attacked. They then grow wings so that they can fly around looking for their next victim. The Mananananggal tends to prey on men, first shapeshifting to look like a beautiful woman so that they can seduce them before luring them into a secluded area, tearing them apart and sucking out all of their internal organs with their long tongue. The only way to defeat the ghoulish creature is to wait until her body is severed, as the lower half remains motionless and vulnerable. Once you find the lower half, sprinkle either salt or crushed garlic onto the creature, and the demon will be unable to join back into one entity. Then just sit back and wait until sunrise, as once the sun hits the separate torso, she will be destroyed. Coming in at number 2, the Aswang. This one might be the most famous of the urban legends, but to be fair, it's for good reason, cause it is just about the most terrifying thing I have ever read about. Supposedly a flesh-eating, shape-shifting, vampire-like creature, what's truly terrifying about the Aswang is that you never know who around you could be one. As the legend goes, during the day they appear to be just like us humans, blending in with the world and working normal jobs, but at night they transform into flesh-eating, blood-sucking, horror film creatures who unleash their predatory instincts, actively hunting the most vulnerable in the community. The creatures are said to have long tongues and backwards feet, and are apparently so thin and frail they can hide behind a single piece of bamboo. But don't be fooled by their small frame, as if they attack, there is no saving you. What's scariest about them though is their ability to transform the appearance of other objects too. In order to avoid suspicion, they are known to use plant matter to create a doppelganger of their victim's corpse in order to hide their feeding habits and fool the locals into thinking they died of another cause. The only way to repel the dreadful creature is with garlic or religious artifacts, particularly used against them during the day as they are weakest in their human form. Then once you have them at their weakest, you can kill the monster by decapitating it. And last up in our number 1 spot, encantos. Often associated with the spirits of ancestors in the Philippines, encantos are kind of a catch-all term for a few different mythical creatures, but are most commonly linked to fairies. Now, if you have only ever watched animated fairies from your favorite childhood shows your whole life and you're wondering what the heck these creatures are doing on a scary list, well then my friend, you have got to learn a little bit more about fae and the terrifying things they are capable of. When it comes to Encantos in particular, their motives are almost backwards to many other ghouls, as if they don't like you, they are rumored to inflict deadly disease, mental illness, or even gain complete possession of their human target. But if they've become smitten with a human, they will sometimes opt to bring them good luck, or they might just kidnap you and bring them into their realm forever. It's said you can try to ward them off by carrying a magical charm or an amulet, but once they have their sights set on you, either good or bad, it is hard to keep them away forever. Although the mythical belief in the Encantos may have originated as folklore, it has also been theorized that the fair-skinned fairies were actually created as a metaphor for the Spanish friars who colonized the Philippines, often abducting and taking advantage of the young Filipino women in the woods. So considering they're based off of real people, you don't get much scarier than that.